Genesis chapter 29, verse 15 through verse 30. Jacob's marriage. BC 1753. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored, and Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee, than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. And Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening, that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for a handmaid. And it came to pass, that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, It must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn fulfill her week. And we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me, yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week. And he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. Here is one, the fair contract made between Laban and Jacob, during the month that Jacob spent there as a guest. Verse 14. It seems he was not idle, nor did he spend his time in sport and pastime, but like a man of business, though he had no stock of his own, he applied himself to serve his uncle, as he had begun. Verse 10. When he watered his flock. Note, wherever we are, it is good to be employing ourselves in some useful business, which will turn to a good account to ourselves or others. Laban, it seems, was so taken with Jacob's ingenuity and industry about his flocks that he was desirous he should continue with him, and very fairly reasons thus: Because thou art my brother, shouldst thou therefore serve me for naught? Verse 15. No, what reason for that? If Jacob be so respectful to his uncle as to give him his service without demanding any consideration for it, yet Laban will not be so unjust to his nephew as to take advantage either of his necessity or of his good nature. Note, inferior relations must not be imposed upon. If it be their duty to serve us, it is our duty to reward them. Now Jacob had a fair opportunity to make known to Laban the affection he had for his daughter Rachel, and having no worldly goods in his hand with which to endow her, he promises him 7 years' service, upon condition that, at the end of the 7 years,
he would bestow her upon him for his wife. It appears by computation that Jacob was now 77 years old when he bound himself apprentice for a wife. And for a wife, he kept sheep. Hosea chapter 12, verse 12. His posterity are there reminded of it long afterwards, as an instance of the meanness of their origin. Probably Rachel was young and scarcely marriageable when Jacob first came, which made him the more willing to stay for her till his 7 years' service had expired.
Jacob's honest performance of his part of the bargain. Verse 20. He serves 7 years for Rachel. If Rachel still continued to keep her father's sheep, as she did. Verse 9. His innocent and religious conversation with her, while they kept the flocks, could not but increase their mutual acquaintance and affection. Solomon's song of love is a pastoral. If she now left it off, his easing her of that care was very obliging. Jacob honestly served out his 7 years and did not forfeit his indentures, though he was old. Nay, he served them cheerfully. They seemed to him but a few days for the love he had to her, as if it were more his desire to earn her than to have her. Note, love makes long and hard services short and easy. Hence we read of the labor of love. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. If we know how to value the happiness of heaven, the sufferings of this present time will be as nothing to us in comparison of it. An age of work will be but as a few days to those that love God and long for Christ's appearing. The base cheat which Laban put upon him when he was out of his time, he put Leah into his arms instead of Rachel. Verse 23. This was Laban's sin. He wronged both Jacob and Rachel, whose affections, doubtless, were engaged to each other. And if, as some say, Leah was herein no better than an adulteress, it was no small wrong to her too. But it was Jacob's affliction, a damp to the mirth of the marriage feast, when in the morning, behold, it was Leah. Verse 25. It is easy to observe here how Jacob was paid in his own coin. He had cheated his own father when he pretended to be Esau, and now his father-in-law cheated him. Herein, how unrighteous soever Laban was, the Lord was righteous, as Judges chapter 1, verse 7. Even the righteous, if they take a false step, are sometimes thus recompensed on the earth. Many that are not, like Jacob, disappointed in the person, soon find themselves, as much to their grief, disappointed in the character. The choice of that relation, therefore, on both sides, ought to be made with good advice and consideration, that if there should be a disappointment, it may not be aggravated by a consciousness of mismanagement. The excuse and atonement Laban made for the cheat. 1. The excuse was frivolous. It must not be so done in our country. Verse 26. We have reason to think there was no such custom of his country as he pretends. Only he banters Jacob with it and laughs at his mistake. Note, those that can do wickedly and then think to turn it off with a jest, though they may deceive themselves and others, will find at last that God is not mocked. But if there had been such a custom, and he had resolved to observe it, he should have told Jacob, so when he undertook to serve him for his younger daughter. Note, As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceeds from the wicked. 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 13. Those that deal with treacherous men must expect to be dealt treacherously with too. His compounding the matter did, but make bad worse. We will give thee this also. Verse 27. Hereby he drew Jacob into the sin and snare and disquiet of multiplying wives, which remains a blot in his escutcheon, and will be so to the end of the world. Honest Jacob did not design it, but to have kept as true to Rachel as his father had done to Rebekah. He that had lived without a wife to the 84th year of his age could then have been very well content with one. But Laban, to dispose of his 2 daughters without portions, and to get 7 years' service more out of Jacob, thus imposes upon him, and draws him into such a strait by his fraud, that, the matter not being yet settled, as it was afterwards by the divine law. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 18, and more fully since by our Savior. Matthew chapter 19, verse 5. He had some colorable reasons for marrying them both. He could not refuse Rachel, for he had espoused her. Still less could he refuse Leah, for he had married her. And therefore Jacob must be content and take 2 talents. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 23. Note: one sin is commonly the inlet of another. Those that go in by one door of wickedness seldom find their way out, but by another. The polygamy of the patriarchs was, in some measure, excusable in them, because, though there was a reason against it, as ancient as Adam's marriage. Malachi chapter 2, verse 15. Yet there was no express command against it. It was in them a sin of ignorance. It was not the product of any sinful lust, but for the building up of the church, which was the good that providence brought out of it. But it will by no means justify the like practice now, when God's will is plainly made known, that one man and one woman only must be joined together. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 2. The having of many wives suits well enough with the carnal sensual spirit of the Mohammedan imposture, which allows it. But we have not so learned Christ. Dr. Lightfoot makes Leah and Rachel to be figures of the 2 churches, the Jews under the law and the Gentiles under the gospel. The younger, the more beautiful, and more in the thoughts of Christ, when he came in the form of a servant. But the other, like Leah, first embraced. Yet, in this the allegory does not hold, that the Gentiles, the younger, were more fruitful. Galatians chapter 4, verse 27.